What's up, survivalists? Jason here. Today I'm going to do a video on lighting a strike on box match without the actual striker on the side. Now you're probably wondering, wait a minute, aren't these like safety matches and they could only be lit from the side of the actual box? Well, I got some news for you. There's some other places you can light or strike it to let it flare up. Well, you're probably asking, why not just get another box that has that? But sometimes you might be a little bit lazy, you don't want to go inside or go to the store to actually get another box or something, because sometimes these little match side boxes get a little bit degraded, and then the phosphorus on them doesn't really strike up the match, and it's just too much like that. So there's sometimes that you definitely need a way to light this up without the actual box. Now, this is a chemical explosion. Basically, the red phosphorus combined with the chlorate and the sulfur on the match head combines them and then makes that little flame. Now, you could do this with other things as well. Some other type of things to look over is the three things that you need for fire. First, air. You got it pretty much all around, unless you're like in space or something like that. And then you have the fuel, which is the actual wood on the match, and then you need combustion. The combustion is going to be happening from the actual match head, but you need some type of way to get that to combust. And the main thing that I'm going to be doing here is heat. Heat is going to be the main part that's going to light this up. Now, what's one way to make heat? Yeah. When you're warming up your hands, you usually rub them together. It's rubbing two materials together to make friction. Friction causes heat, and that is what happens when you drag this across something. Now let's go over some different materials that you could actually strike this on. Alright, I'm going to be splitting this into two different types of scenarios. The first scenario is going to be about in an urban scenario, where you're probably in your backyard at a friend's house trying to start a fire, or at the park or anything like that in an urban scenario. The next scenario is going to be a kind of like a wilderness scenario, where you're probably going out camping, having fun, or you just happen to be lost and you don't have a good striker to strike these type of normal matches on. So let's just start with the first urban one right here. Alright, here's the match. You can see it's just a regular match, no trickery at all. And here is going to be the first thing I'm going to be talking about. When you have a surface like this, you don't want something that's too rough, or it will take away too much of the material and you'll lose your match head. But also, you don't want something that's too smooth where it won't get enough friction from. Now, this is a scenario probably in your backyard, have a patio, and it's full of concrete, and you want to find kind of the smoothest part that you have. And for this, you want to have the longest running distance that you could get right here. You don't want to do short bursts, or you won't really get it good enough, and that leaves a chance for not really striking the match, or give you a chance of breaking it more. So you want a long distance, probably at least a foot. And then once you get this in the system and then starting doing it more, you can just shrink down of how much length you could actually strike these type of matches on. So let's give this a try. It's not too smooth right here. You can hear that pop. That means it's most likely kind of igniting, but it's not flaring up right now. So let's give this another try. It kind of flares up right there. So the material kind of went down, but once it caught the other material, it did eventually light. So let's give this another try. Alright, here's another of the match. And let's give this a try without actually damaging the head too much. There we go. First try. And then you can just light your fire, whatever you need to do, light your charcoal. But here's one little material that you could actually light a strike on box match with. Alright, if you have a fire pit, you're bound to have a pile of wood. Now, when you want to strike on wood, you want to have something that's a little bit exposed and right underneath the bark. When you do it on the bark, it's a little bit too jaggedy and you can't really get good surface. And the longer the surface, the better the chance of lighting the match. So having exposed cut wood like this, or doing it by taking off the bark and doing it like that, you can do it, but you want to do it on like dead stuff, because I found doing some of the live one doesn't really work that well. So let's give this a little try. You want to have at least of a foot of a running distance to actually try to strike this up. So let's give this a try. All right, first try right there. Look at that. So you could definitely use something like that to strike it up. All right, some other matches that may work is the waterproof matches from Coghlan's. The waterproof ones are a little bit of a pain because they have a wax coating on them, and you have to do like a little bit harder to actually make the friction, because you have to get to the actual material inside of the match head. But you can do it on like wood right there. And the concrete is a little bit harder to do because it is like abrasive enough to actually degrade the match head too much, and if you do it too much, it will just fall off and it'll be a really waste right there. But one thing is, the UCO stormproof matches don't really work at all, and I don't want to try a whole bunch of materials and waste a whole bunch of those UCO matches anyways. So just stick to the normal striking box or waterproof matches. Alright, here's another surface you could actually light a match on, and it's glass. This little glass table, you can do it on pane glass, but it actually scratches it up, and you don't want that on your windows. But having something like a glass table doesn't do too much of the damage, and you can't really see that much. But once you get enough area, you could actually just right there. Now you're probably wondering, wait a minute, is that too smooth of a surface to actually light it up? Well, on a microscopic level, if you actually look at glass, it has a whole bunch of little grooves and a whole bunch of valleys and stuff like that in the glass, and it would actually cause a lot of that friction, and the reason why the match would light up. Alright, here's another thing that could actually light up a match. It is a magnifying glass. This is going to be using the focal point of the sun, using it for a solar ignition, but you can actually do it on a match. When you're doing it with a match, you want to have it backed up to something so you can actually see the focal point much better. And when you're doing a little bit of a solar ignition, you want to have some sunglasses and don't stare directly at the focal point. You just actually point it. Really, Mia? And there we go. The match is lit. And that's how you could start a match with a magnifying glass. Now I'm going to do another scenario during the wilderness part of it, but it's going to be a different thing that you most likely would have during a wilderness scenario. Alright, if you happen to be at like a little park or something, and there's the little sign that's a little bit metal, so you could try this. And right there, first try. You just gotta wipe that off. But look at that, first try, that was cool. We're at a park table, and it feels like maybe metal. It sounds like it, but it's like glossed over with something. But it feels smooth enough, but it has enough little ridges or something on it to strike it probably. Oh, I definitely heard a pop. There we go. So definitely lit right there. It's a little bit windy, so that's why it went out, but still, it lit. That's really awesome. Sounds like it's metal. But yeah. So if you're at a park bench and you have to have something like this, it might be ceramic. I don't know. But yeah. A little metal post that's been painted. Definitely did it. If you happen to be like at a campsite or a community park, you're bound to find one of these type of grills, and they're usually like this, or you have some bigger ones like over there, but they usually are metal, kind of rusted type of metal, but you most likely can do it right there, and then just light your charcoal or anything like that. area you could actually strike a match on, and it's these little trash can covers. They're plastic. They're usually plastic, but you can strike a match on them. Alright, when you're at a park or some type of shaded area, you're bound to find these type of tables. They're like the little diamond type of hold, and usually for like eating food or anything like that. But on these sides, I think they might be able to actually strike a strike and box match with. So let's try that. So I've tried it before and I heard popping, but never got it yet. That match is gone. The match head stuck. Pack out what you take in. Don't leave matches on the ground. Oh, I heard part of it flame up, but it flew away. It like definitely caught fire, but there's like a piece of the tip of the head that broke off. Let's give this one more try. Definitely hearing it pop. Smoke. Alright, I don't know if this will work out or not. It kind of works, but I haven't gotten it. Let me do one more try. Just one more. Because I heard it flare up, but the piece fell off. Last try. There we go. Yes, finally. It lit up. I wouldn't really recommend this or try to find something else before this, but you can strike a match on this. Alright, so that is most of the stuff that I could pretty much find right now that could actually strike while in like an urban, in a backyard, or anywhere that is near man-made stuff that you could actually strike something on. So let's get into the actual outdoors and wilderness area things that you could strike in the great outdoors. Alright, when you're in the great outdoors, you most likely would have something a little bit like this, like a small little container that would have some of your matches inside. But a little scenario that might happen is like you're going through all your stuff, you're just throwing stuff in because you're really excited for that little trip, and you don't really look at all the stuff that you have. You look a little bit on some of your gear, but you happen to just forget a little striker inside the little match case that you have. So that's one little scenario that could happen. Or the box gets really degraded, or you fall into like a little river or a little stream or something, and this just gets wrecked. But some of the matches you can just wipe off and shake off and still kind of work. But those are a couple scenarios that could happen to lose your little strike box. And I'm gonna test some things out here to actually see if they actually strike a match. Now, out here, you definitely most likely would have rocks. There's a little bit kind of a porous type of rough type of rock, or a really, really rough rock, or really smooth rocks right here. And these aren't like too smooth, but they are pretty smooth. So I'm gonna take some of my strike on box matches. No trickery here. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that. Right there, let's test this out. Start with a bigger rock. Now, if you practice the skill a lot, you most likely could start on a small little piece like this, but start with the biggest piece that you have to see if it actually works, because it's the longest distance and that's the most heat you could get from the friction. So let's test this out. It's a little bit smooth, but not too smooth. It's just rough. It's popping. The match head just degraded. It's taking off too much material for it, which probably means this will probably take off too much material. Now this bigger one, really nice. I think it might be slate or something, maybe, the way it kind of moves. But let's try this out. Oh, I hear it pop. Yes, got a match lit from the smoother one. This is a good one. So that worked. Now let's see if I could do this small distance one right here. This one's like perfect for the hand. I think this might be like a little artifact, you know? It's like a little hammer. But let's try this out. Yes, look at that. A little bit windy, but still. But yeah, it lit it right there, right in front of your eyes. This is like a perfect little rock for lighting a match. It's like about, yeah, look at that. Almost the length of the matchbox. And this is probably a little bit smaller, so it's actually packable. Just take this instead of the matchbox. But let's look for some other materials that could strike a match. Alright, if you're in the wilderness, there's bound to be wood, and sometimes even dead wood. If you find some dead wood, something like this could help when striking strike on box match without the striker. You can just drag it across, and hopefully it does that. But this is actually feeling a little bit damp, so this might be not that good of a striking. Yeah. So let's look for another piece. This might be. There we go. So we got that right there, and it's long enough surface area to actually get enough friction to actually strike the match. So let's try that again and show you. So let's just do this. There we go. So that's something you could look out for. More pieces like this, longer surface area, and it has to be dry, because if it's a little bit wet or damp and it's close to the ground and it's cold and stuff like that, you can't really get heat. So you want to look for stuff probably like dead standing or straight from the tree. Sometimes like pine trees, you can break them really easy right off and then like baton it straight through and get some good pieces. Alright, when you're out camping or just having fun in the woods, probably having lunch or something like that, you're bound to have some type of cooking pot or some type of metal container that you've cooked with. Now, it doesn't take up too fast because you gotta keep on going and keep doing it. And I found it's a little bit harder to do it with this, but you could still do it if you're lucky. So after a while, like the soot kind of I don't know if you can see this. It really messes up on the side right there, and you just have to keep turning it around. You may want to clean it off or get the soot off, but I find that the just regular metal like this can be a little bit harder to light on. So something like this, and a little bit of soot gives it a little bit more friction because it gives it a little bit something to grain or something like that. But oh, let me check for that one. You don't get it every time. You just got to think about that. It's quite the process. See the inside business. Now, let's see. This one, I did it once. There we go. Just got to do it really fast. See, right there. Let's do that again. I think I did it on the very tip. Yeah. Just gotta do it really fast on this. But I think it's probably because the more surface area and more I could press down on it, there's a reason why the match went off. When I do it like this, it's not that much pressure going on it, and plus all that soot is getting on that, but like this, yeah. So when you do it on something like this, you probably want to do it when it tipped down and then lighten it that way. So I think it's probably because you can push it down a little bit better. But that is something you could do with striking when you're out in the wilderness, having fun or anything like that. But let's start going into ways to light it. Not necessarily just like a drag it across something to actually strike it, but lighten it with a little Fresnel lens. I know I did the magnifying glass, but still, this is something you will most likely have when you're out in the great outdoors. And like I said, when dealing with these, the match head is a little bit too small to try to figure out the focus point on this. So grab something on there so you can actually see where the match head meets the actual focal point and strikes it or lights it. And there you go. And you got the match right there, and you can put that into your fire or your wood bundle and tinder bundle to make a fire. But yeah, that's how you could pretty much do that out in the wilderness. If you don't want to bring a big giant magnifying glass, you can just bring something small like this. Alright, here's another thing that could possibly light up a match, and it's a Ferro Rod. This was actually like a challenge a long way back ago on like the YouTube community that we have around here. Some of us may actually remember it, but some of the new ones, I have tried to find who was the first one to actually create it, but I don't exactly remember. But I remember a lot of people actually trying this as a challenge. So this could either be like a wilderness scenario or just having fun in your backyard. So one thing I really like to do is just scrape off some of the magnesium of the Ferro Rod onto there and then strike it up, because that gives it a little bit more flair when trying to start up the match head. There we go. Lit up the match right there with a Ferro Rod. Alright, the last thing for a wilderness survival situation is some flint, high carbon steel, and some char cloth to actually light up a match. Now just take your char cloth right here, put on your flint, and just like spark up your there we go. Char cloth is lighting up. Have it go for a little bit, and then you could just put your match right here, kind of fold it in and blow it. There we go. And you lit your match. So that is the last one for a wilderness survival situation. Alright, that concludes my video of striking a strike-on box match on other surfaces. This is a pretty good skill to learn, and even if you don't really go out that much, you can still go in the backyard and prove yourself and say, hey, look it, I can do this, that sort of thing. But still, it's a pretty good skill to learn, even if you're not much of an outdoorist or anything like that. And you may be wondering, wait a minute, don't they make something like this for these type of scenarios? Yes, they do. Strike anywhere matches. I would definitely just stick to these, but the one thing is, they're pretty hard to come by. And I'm pretty lucky because I found like a 3-pack of these just at like a sporting goods store. And I just really lucky for that. But still, these are a little bit easier to find, even like at Walmart or anything like that. These are the Diamond Greenlight brand. They work pretty well for me. And of course, you could light them on other materials. So if you know any other materials that might strike a match, a regular safety match, let me know in the comments, and I want to thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.